You guys are taking note of this, is the system continues to provide opportunities for you to adjust your status. Family is important. And even in the new executive orders, there's a focus on family. Okay? There's a focus on family-based, as Kevin and James stated. So family is critical. So I know a lot of people are concerned about, how their families can get here. Always remember, the laws make a provision for family. But your conduct might affect what happens to you and your family. I can't understate that. And I can't overstate it either. But more important, we want hope. Maybe the new law will, Elvis can tell us. Will it solve all our problems?
Thank you very much for your time. I just want to say thank you very much, CAMCOH, for doing this. I think this is very important so that our citizens stay informed about what's going on. I want to think that the reason you guys came here was to listen to me, right? Because the big elephant in the room is this new immigration bill that is being talked about, right? Emmanuel talked about it. The U.S. hasn't passed an immigration reform for a very long time, right? So hopefully, what I've done is I've read the bill. How many of you have read the bill? How many of you have been seen it? It's about 884 pages. So the good news for you is I have read all those 884 pages. I was able to extrapolate some of the important parts of it that I think that you should know. And that's what I'm going to try to give to you today within the short time that we have, right? Summarily, I think it's hopeful, right? Change, right? Yes, we can. It's a long time coming, and hopefully it passes. You can see the title of the bill right there, right? Very long. It passed the Senate June 27, 2013. And the current status of the bill is currently before Congress, right? We have no idea what that. We have no idea whether it's going to pass or not. But I just want to let you know that everything that I say about the bill is just a bill, right? The bill is not law, right? The way that law passes is you have a bill that is introduced and then it's deliberated upon, then it subsequently passes both houses, Senate and the Congress. And then there's a public period, a public comment period where stakeholders can write comments about the law or the bill. And then if after those comments are received, regulations are written, how you can enforce the bill. So regulations go now, they use the public comments and try to explain certain things on the bill and say, okay, this is what we mean by this. And try to explain anything that people don't understand. So any questions that you might have, any questions that I might have about the bill, we might not be able to answer them until when the regulations themselves come out, if I thought the bill passes, right? But the first thing that you want to know is a very complex bill. Democrats have worked on it alongside the Republicans. They made a lot of concessions. Some of the biggest issues is that Republicans are pushing for this is they need to build a fence, right, along the southern border. They need to hire a custom officials. They need to hire patrol officers there. Republicans are saying, if you guys don't do this, we're not even going to listen. This bill is not even going to go into effect. So there's a lot of things that have to be done before the bill is, the law itself, even if it passes, to take effect. But for you to be eligible, you have to have been physically present in the U.S. December 31st, 2011. And then from between that December 31st, 2011, you have to maintain a physical presence, continuous physical presence in the U.S. until when you get granted the status, right? And then you have to pay a fee of $1,000, which is a fine. They call it a fine. You have to pay a fine of $1,000. The good thing about it is you can pay the first $500, and then you can pay the other $500 in installments. And then the bill, as part of the financing of the bill, it also says if you can show that you're not able to pay, right, there's provisions in there that the government can give you a waiver. The $1,000, I think, is a very pretty low sum for somebody to pay to get status in the U.S. And this bill can apply to any person, notwithstanding if you're removal proceedings, you're in deportation proceedings, so long as you are illegal and you're present as in the U.S. as of December 31st, 2011. That's why some people call it an amnesty, right? But they don't really want to use that word because some people don't like that word, right? And then for you to prove your eligibility, the burden of proof is very low. Preponderance of the evidence, right? James will tell you if you can just show that 60% out of 100, you're good, which is a very low burden to meet. So for you to show that you're eligible, you just have to convince the Secretary of State or the immigration officers that you meet 60%. For you, those who are not eligible, we talked a lot about crime here, right? It goes back to crime. If you've been convicted of a felony, you can't do it. If you've been convicted of three or more misdemeanors, you're not eligible. So a good criminal record, a good record in the U.S. is very important. Also, we talk about terrorists, right? If the Secretary of State knows that you're coming to engage in any terroristic activities, it's a no-go for you. The question that we talked about when we're preparing for this is, what if an F1 student, right, they were present here December 31st, 2011, and then they hear that this law is coming out, and then they stop going to school so that they should get illegal and then be eligible for this. That bullet point there tells you is you do not qualify if you're lawfully present in the U.S., a refugee, asylee, or student. You're not eligible for this. And it makes a lot of sense too because it's taking you to a different path. Because if you're an asylee, right, you wait after 5 years, you can become a citizen. But this one, whether or not you can even adjust your status is questionable. Okay, and then if you were deported from the U.S. and then you return to the U.S. without getting a waiver from the Secretary of State, you're not eligible. I mean, this applies mostly to, I don't really want to be stereotypical, but it applies mostly to people that come from on the southern border, like Mexicans that they get deported today, then they're back the next day. I mean, if they don't get the waivers, they say you're not eligible. But the Secretary of State might also waive it, right? It gives them discretion. They might waive it for humanitarian reasons, or if somebody is a spouse or child of a U.S. citizen, or parent of a U.S. citizen, or other requirements. I mean, it's discretion. I mean, discretion is what it is, right? Another important thing that I wanted to note about the bill is it gives judges a lot of discretion. And what that means is if you think that, or if you think, or one of your family members or friends, if they think that they're eligible, even if they see some of those requirements and they don't meet them, still apply, because judges have a lot of discretion. And if it's really an amnesty as what some people think it is, then your chances of getting it are very high. Okay. It's all about being a good citizen, right? Like you mentioned before. If you've been in the U.S. and you've not paid your taxes, you owe taxes, you cannot apply. So the question now is, if somebody is illegal, how do they owe taxes, right? But you might know, you might not know that people who are not documented, you can apply for an EIN from the IRS, and any work that you do, your taxes are assessed that way. So if they find out that you owed any taxes there, then you have to pay them. Another example is you get married, a bona fide marriage to a U.S. citizen, and then you get a 2-year provisional green card, and then maybe after the 2 years, you show up for your interview for the permanent green card, and then the spouse is not there anymore for whatever reason, right? Then now you can't prove up that marriage anymore, so you don't have that status anymore. So if you were working within that 2 years when you had the provisional green card and you owed any taxes, you have to pay it up before you're eligible for the law. So those are the 2 examples that I found that could fit there. Okay. The application period for the law is, if the bill passes, it becomes law, the regulations are written, you have to apply within 1 year. It's a 1-year window. So if you don't apply within that 1 year, you're host, right? But it gives the Secretary of State discretion to apply to extend it for an additional 18 months. Within that 1 year, if somebody who was legal and then gets arrested and then they become deportable, if there is any reasonable basis that they can qualify for this law, it allows them to apply for it. So just because you become illegal within that period when you're supposed to apply, so long as you're present in the U.S. December 31st, 2011, you can apply for it, even if they arrest you and you again, aliens currently in removal proceedings may be eligible. So if there's people that are locked up somewhere, you know, right, they're waiting to deport them. If they granted the status, the alien will file the motion to reopen the exclusion of deportation order. And then the law says their motion must be granted unless one or more grounds of ineligibility is established by clear and convincing evidence. That's a pretty high standard to meet. So take away from that is, even if somebody is in removal proceedings, if they think that they have a chance, they should apply for it. Let's go. Okay. The way that the bill is right now in the Senate, they're going to give you provisional status for 6 years. Mind you, it's not a green card status. They just give a provisional status to be in the U.S. You can extend it for another 6 years, right? Then, for you to be able to extend that for an additional 6 years, you still have to be in the same, meet the same eligibility requirements when you apply for the status. So if you apply within that 6 years, you've committed a crime or you've done anything wrong, they're not going to extend it. Then you're host. Then you can't even apply for it. You can't even get any benefits anymore. And then if they give you this status within the 6 months, you're not eligible for any benefits. Think about Obamacare. You're not going to be eligible for it. And then you also have to meet the continuous physical presence in the U.S. I'm talking about, they're giving you for 6 years. You want to extend it for another 6 years. You have to show that you've been present in the U.S. You've not been absent from the U.S. for more than 180 days. And then they're giving you this temporary status. They've waived a lot of grounds for you that maybe you would not have qualified for status in the U.S. If you're trying to extend it for another 6 years, those waivers don't apply anymore. So you have to meet all the requirements. They think about you must have paid your taxes, employment, you must have met all the employment requirements. Back in the line is something that Kevin mentioned before. You have this queue that you have to be in, right? The time that you apply for your status, you have to go back in line to any other person who applied for permanent residency. So what this does is it gives you a chance, at least the Senate version, it gives you a chance to be able to adjust your status from that provisional status to a green card. But what they want to do is they don't want any person under this track to get a green card before any person who had ever applied for a green card under another track. So when Kevin showed you the chart about saying the current processing is about 2001, it means that you're not going to get a green card before any of those people. But the government is trying hard to see how they can clear the backlog, and their goal is to try to clear it by 2021. They talk about the Dream Act that Emmanuel talked about. Under the Dream Act, now you could adjust your status to a permanent resident, but you must have been a provisional resident for at least 5 years, and then you must have entered the U.S. when you were 16 years. Okay. In terms of the future of the immigration system, what this bill does is it changes a lot of things. It has gone to what they call a merit-based system, right? And it goes back to the same thing that you guys were talking about. What benefit are you bringing to the U.S.? Your chances of getting a visa are higher based on your educational level, your skills, right? What profession you're in. Think about STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are the people that they're more interested about. So if you look at the 84-page bill, it says it gives you, if you are in sciences, you get 10 points. If you speak English, you get 10 points. So you amass those points, and then increases your chances of getting a visa. And then it's going to set the worldwide level of permanent visas to 120,000. Right? And then it says if less than 75% apply, if they give less than 75% of that 120, they're going to increase it by 5% the previous year. But if it's equal to or if it's equal to more than 75%, it's going to stay the same for the next year. Then it's going to tie it to the unemployment rate in the U.S. If the unemployment rate in the U.S. is more than 8%, it's going to stay at that 120, or they're going to determine if they should issue more visas or lesser visas. More than likely, they're going to give you lesser visas. Right? And then, like Kevin talked about, you can always recapture visas that are not that are unused for the prior year. Important for asylees. You know that for you to be able to apply for asylum in the U.S., you have to do it within 1 year upon arrival in the U.S. If you don't do it within 1 year, you have to show extenuating circumstances why you did not do it. It was always a hard thing for people to win, because if you file for your asylum and you go over there, your first question you have to answer is, did you do it within 1 year? If you didn't do it within 1 year, it's a presumption that it's fake. So what this law is going to do is it's going to do away with that one year requirement. So you can file for asylum after 1 year, and then they're not going to question you for it. And then if somebody filed for asylum before, and then it was denied, mainly because they did not meet that 1 year requirement, under this new law, you can file to reopen your case. So then now they're going to treat the case based on the merit, not just on the 1 year requirement. H-1B visas, there used to be a cap of 65,000. It's going to eliminate that. It's going to up that to between 150,000 to 180,000. F-1 visas. When you go to get your F-1 visa from the embassy in Yaoundé, the goal is go study and come back. This new law is going to give you can have a dual intent. You can say, I want to go study and come back, or I want to go study and stay. So very important. For family-based visas, if you are a lawful permanent resident, before when you apply for your spouse, for your children, you have to wait for a long time because you have to meet one of those the preferences. But now they're going to make them immediate relatives, which means that they get the visas immediately, which is a very good thing for permanent residents. Before, you used to be able to apply for your siblings. You become a U.S. citizen, you want to apply for your brother and your sister. Even though it takes a very long time, like Kevin told you, we're going to do away with that. You cannot apply for your brother or sister anymore. And then, no more visas for children of U.S. citizens over 30 years of age. And then there's going to be, Kevin mentioned this too, there's going to be the family-based visas are capped at 480,000. And then they're going to minus that from the previous year. But they say it's not going to be less than 161,000 every given year. Employment-based visas is capped at 140,000. Before, it used to be where they say if you're from Cameroon, we can only get 10,000 visas from Cameroon. Now, no more country-specific caps. So you can get as many employment visas from one country as possible. And then, highly skilled and very talented immigrants, no caps. So if we talk about those highly skilled individuals, if they have 1 million of them that want to come in, we're going to let them in. There's no caps for that. Spouse and children exempt from caps too. And like I mentioned before, the goal is to try to see if they can eliminate the backlogs by 2021. Okay. This is probably the bad part of the presentation. A lot of people, maybe some people here came in on the DV visa, right? If this law passes, no more DV. The DV system is going to stop, which means that this year is the last year to play the DV if this law passes. So no DV visa will be issued for the fiscal year 2015. Last time that we did this same seminar, the concern was the deportation in the community, right? And how we could help, or people could help to see how we could get people to stay. And one of the solutions was work with the embassy, work with the consulate to see how they can delay deportation or deny deportation. This law deals with that, and it says if a embassy or consulate, if they delay or deny deportation, the Secretary of State can order their consulate in your country to stop issuing visas. Because it's been a huge problem where if the Secretary of State can prove that this person is a Nigerian, then they could take him to the Nigerian embassy. The Nigerian ambassador says, no, I'm not going to send him back. Under this new law, they can say, okay, we're not going to issue visas from Nigeria. We're going to cut the number of visas that are coming from there. Yeah. So those are the high points of this law, right? Again, it's just a bill. Now you're informed, at least you have a good idea about what the bill is, to see if you can support it, if it gets to a point where you have to lobby your congresspersons so that they can pass the law. Whether it's going to pass or not, we have no idea. But if you have family members and friends who might benefit from this, inform them about this, let them seek a lawyer to try to advise them, and then hopefully, they can benefit from it. Thank you very much.